Mike, the graphic for tonight's show is a tribute to the officers really injured in one of the most shocking crimes in recent memory. How are you doing, Mike?
Good, bro. What's up?
Well,
A little bit of everything, right?
this thing in Compton where it looks like a kid, he's shorter than the SUV, just walks up to the car, shoots two cops, runs away, hasn't been caught. Black Lives Matter protesters go to the hospital and say, "We wish you would die." How can anybody support that?
Yeah, whatever campaign they had started under this Black Lives Matter thing is now spun into a complete anarchy, communist terror organization. And I'm not sure why it's being tolerated. It's good to see that the Pennsylvania State Police and some of the police in Lancaster are cracking down on these people. Lancaster, PA. They don't play games out in Amish country. You and I were out there. We could have been arrested at any moment for it's the mean streets of Lancaster. No, seriously, they don't play games out there. So I don't know what's going on with these people. Try to get inside their heads, and I don't know why they haven't been completely disbanded at this point. I think that there's they seem to be able to operate unfettered in cities that are run by communists as well. And I got an email from somebody telling me that my use of the word communist is not correct, and they gave me a long dissertation. Okay, that's great, but I'm still going to call these people communists because I think that's what they are.
I think it's got to do with putting importance on workers or something. They're totalitarian terrorists is what they are.
Well, in Philly, we just call them fucking assholes. But
exactly.
Since
you don't want to get too technical.
Don't want to get too technical. Then I'll get the people of Philadelphia giving me a hard time. They're not technically assholes because they're communists. You can't
win. It's more of a rectum.
So,
it gets real detailed once you start going down that road.
So they've gone out of control. We know that. And I spent some time this week and I have it on the podcast tomorrow. The main podcast tomorrow. We do 2 podcasts on Wednesday. It's like mind numbing. We do this show. I actually kind of like it, but it is a little bit of a grind in the middle of the week, but I'm not complaining because I do like it. So it's this show now, Tuesday nights, and then Wednesday we do the morning podcast, and then we come a couple hours later with the big Wednesday podcast. But I spent some time with an old buddy of mine who's a decorated street cop, and I said, I'm tired of hearing these idiots in the media talk about what it's like to be a cop under situations. One, a lot of the people in the media don't know what the hell they're talking about. 2, a lot of the police that they've hired as spokespeople never had to pull their gun on anybody. So what is it like? I want to know what it's like, right? And I want you to tell people what it's like, that it's not all Hollywood bullshit or the stuff you see on TV and the spin, and then it's nothing like however these pundits attack these situations. They break down the situations where people get shot, like frame by frame. Well, this is what they should have done. And this is a guy who's been shot at, beaten, had to shoot people, and a serious street cop in Newark, New Jersey. Okay. And
I think a lot of it, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but there's a lot of getting bit, vomited on, punched in the balls, all kinds of stuff going on.
No idea. It's chaos. And he's a white Italian guy, and he talks about reverse racism, being targeted because you're a white cop, and stuff the media won't talk about. And if you're chasing an African American and you're a white cop, then a mob ensues and they start chasing you on foot, right? Okay, so
that's new, or that's got to be due to this whole.
It's not.
Wow.
No, that's old. That's just the way it is, in the tough socioeconomic places like Newark and East Orange and Plainfield, New Jersey. I mean, this is right across the bridge from New York, right?
Yeah.
And I came up with these guys, and that's my old neighborhood. So I said, let's get this guy in and talk about it because he just recently retired. And there was a TV show, I don't know if you remember, it was called Jacked. It was about auto theft task force. These guys used to roll around and chase car thieves in Newark. He was the commander of that whole show, Jacked Auto Theft Task Force. So he has crazy stories, real, and they're not crazy because they're made up. It's all real. And so he tells you about how fast you can die on the street if you don't protect yourself, and that you have no other choice but to end somebody if they don't obey. And it's very black and white. It's like, I'm fucking going home tonight to my kids, and I don't care if you want to step out of line and you don't want to listen, and you pose a serious threat, you're going to die.
Can I pause you on that for a second, Mike? Because this is really important. I think we need public education to what you just said. Because I was watching a video of a white guy at a traffic stop. I think it was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And there's two cops talking to this guy. He's like a dope. He doesn't seem like he's on drugs. He just seems like he's stupid. But then it seems like he's playing stupid because they're talking to him. They're like, get out of the car. And he's like, why are you doing this? And he's crying. Then as soon as they get him out of the car, they're like holding him down on the ground. He struggles with the cops, takes their gun, shoots both of them, and I think he killed one of them.
Killed one of them. He got the gun. He got the one guy's gun. You could hear the cops saying, because I watch all this stuff, because I'm talking to the guy. We're doing the show on it. And he says to the guy, the cop says, gun, which means either he's got a gun or he's going for the guy's gun. And the other cop draws his piece and shoots him. But I think in the interim, he got shot by the guy. So one cop died, one cop survived, and this piece of shit is in jail now. They just released the video footage of it. This happened previously. This happened in the summer, and they just released the video footage, I think, today or yesterday. So this is what we're seeing, and it's vicious. But before you play that, let me just say this.
Sure.
This is what he's talking about, what really happened. So you know how, like on Cops, you watch Cops, and everybody liked to show Cops. But they never really showed you when shit went wrong, for the most part, because stuff on like a ride-along when the cameras are there, a lot of stuff wouldn't go wrong. You get some action and some funny stuff, some comical stuff, maybe a foot chase, maybe still. But these guys were in the thick of it every night in Newark, chasing stolen cars. All right, so they saw a crazy amount of action. All right, and so when you watch these cop shows and you go on a virtual ride along or whatever you want to call it, right? Yeah. You don't really get to see when the shit hits the fan. So what he does is he takes us on a ride along, and we talk about exactly. And I've been with him physically back in the day, riding with him in Newark, and causing.
That's how crime reporting was done, right? Greg Morris told us that's what you had to do.
Yeah, Greg Morris, for folks, my professor from Rutgers, he covered the police beat for the Rochester American newspaper and the New York Post and the Washington Star. He was an African-American police reporter, and he was like a serious beat reporter, like out at 3 a.m, looking at bodies, dead bodies, and writing stories about, being out on the street, like Breslin and was out on the street and guys like that back in the New York Post days, right? So, but but I rode along with these guys after my journalism career, right? Like I would call them up and say, hey, I'm in New York. Let's say if I was in New York with you or something, doing something, and I was headed back to Pennsylvania, I'd call him up and say, you want to get together for a beer? And he'd say, I'm working tonight. Why don't you come over and we'll go out? I said, okay, I'll come over. And we go out. And next thing you know, there's guns, they're chasing a guy with a gun. I'm like, what is going on here? I just thought we were going to get together for a beer. This guy's got a gun. This other guy's got a gun. And, it was crazy. The one time we were rolling and they were chasing a guy with 2 guys in a stolen car. And there's 6 or 7 guys closing in on him in SUVs. They had these SUVs with like battering rams on it. It was wild. And he just goes to me. It's just him and I in a Ford Expedition, like all tricked out. And he's sitting there. He's got like the computer in the middle and all this equipment. So I'm like kind of scrunched in the passenger seat. I'm all fat. Back then I'm like just fat, And I'm sitting there like, this is crazy. And he goes, grab the wheel, and he jumps out of the car. The car's going like 15 miles an hour.
What?
and he's out in a foot chase. I'm like, what the hell? And I'm headed for like a residential area. If I don't grab the wheel or get over the computer
How
with
about
my
the
fat
brakes?
ass,
Yeah.
well, I have to hit the brakes, and I'm like struggling. You know, I'm like, what's going on? The
Jeez.
computer's like cutting in him. So I got the truck stopped. I get out. He's chasing one guy on foot. Right? The guy has a gun. Okay. And you can hear the cops on the radio saying, one with a gun, and they're off and they're running. So he's chasing this guy behind a house. The guy throws the gun up on the roof, and they find the guy like hiding under a shed in the backyard, right? He brings him over to the car to me, and he says, there's another guy. Keep an eye on this guy. I'm like, all right. And so I
Do you
put him
have
up
a gun?
against No. I put him up against there's a shotgun in the car, though. I put him up against the car, and I said, you know, keep your hands on the car, on the side of the car, and spread your legs. And I'm just sitting there like, this escalated quickly. 1 minute ago, we were talking about this is the worst ride along ever, but it's good too, you know. The problem I'm thinking is like, if I get shot, I don't know how I'm going to spin this to my wife.
Exactly.
And I was on a business trip to New York, and somehow I got shot. So it was out of control. So, and we talk about this because it was actually kind of funny. But so the guy's against the car, and they bring the other guy around, and I didn't have any cuffs or anything, so I couldn't cuff the guy. But he was cool. He's like, yeah, you guys got me, man. You got me, you know. And I said, don't try to fucking run away or anything, Chief.
Mike, did you freeze? Mike, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, you're back.
Yeah. Anyway, so the guy's mom comes out of this house. She's like in a bathrobe and curlers, and she's like, that's my son. I go, oh shit, we got major problems here. I'm like alone with this guy. The mom's coming out. It's in the middle of the night. So I'm like talking to her. It's okay, man. It's just we're just a little misunderstanding. I'm hoping these guys get back, right? Because I'm like, anything could go haywire. She can hand
The
this guy
mom
a
comes
crowbar.
out, it gets crazy because if the guy starts to feel like something's going to happen to his mom,
Yeah.
you never know.
Well, I brought her over, and I said, you could come over and talk to him, but let's just, you know, I was like the original social distancing. I said, just stay
They
about
don't know
6
that
or
you're
7.
not a cop, though. They think you're like an undercover cop.
They think
or
I'm
something.
the man. They think I'm the man. I'm wearing all black. I got a vest on. I have one of their sweatshirts on. They had a sweatshirt back in the day that said ATTF on the back, Auto Theft Task Force, and on the front it has like, you know, a cops thing. And so, but I'm being cool. I'm like, yo, man, you want some water? You know, you look like you got kind of beat up back there in the bushes. And he's really cool. He's asking for like a cigarette. I'm like, nah, I'm not smoking. Smoking will kill you, man. Forget about stealing cars. Smoking will kill your ass.
Yes,
and he's laughing.
true.
And the mom
Unless
was
you're
like,
Larry Nichols, then it's, you eat those for breakfast.
The guy is like, yeah, Larry Nichols is like, makes the Marlboro Man look like a pansy. And it was crazy. And so it all got sorted out, and we took the guys down to booking and stuff. But they did this every night. Okay, so he gives the perspective of like real stuff where people had to be killed and things like that. In their run-ins, a guy had to be killed and he's been shot at and stuff. And he takes you literally on a ride along to say, the stuff you read in the media, it's all bullshit, total bullshit. This stuff gets way out of hand so fast.
Right.
And you have milliseconds to react. And if you screw up, you're not going
That's it.
home.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, that's what I mean, Mike, about the public service announcement aspect of this. Like when I see these guys arguing with the cops, it's like you're about to get your skull split open. Just get down on the ground and stop struggling and fighting.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is too, he brings up a valid point, and I knew this, but you don't really think about it because you're so like inundated with stupid analysis and ridiculous things in the media where these fucking reporters have never left their desk and all of a sudden they're authorities on everything, right? That you can't tell in a video what the cop's knowledge is of that person and what kind of history he has in the community. This guy could have been a menace. He could have punched a cop. He could have shot a cop. He could have shot a relative or somebody, and these back out. And people, you know, you roll up on people and you're like, oh, he's out of jail already, this guy?
Right.
We just put this guy in jail. And so when you see that and on the street, you automatically think, oh, shit, here we go. Like he says, it's very interesting. He says you have to process all this stuff in milliseconds, and then before you know it, before you can even process it, he might have a step or two coming your way.
Right.
That you have to react. What are you going to do? Are you going to use a stick? Are you going to use a taser? Are you going to have to ramp it up if he doesn't respond to verbal commands, and if he keeps being aggressive and he won't back off after you tase him, right? Then what? Then it's gun time. You got to go for your gun, and it's very unforgiving based on their training.
And Mike, something else I observed, I've barely ever used guns. I've never shot a person. Joanne Moriarty sent me a video from Texas security camera in the post office where some guy comes in to rob it, and the dude standing next to him in the line takes out a gun and like 1 foot away shoots him in the head. And the guy's still moving around, taking 3 shots in the head before the guy fell over. So all this like, oh, shoot him once in the leg, I can't really judge.
As what if you're all jacked up on something, one shot's not going to stop you, and so it depends what kind of caliber of gun you have too. And it's
right.
More proof that don't go into the post office this time of year for any reason. I think it's a very unstable place to be. But it was interesting. It's an interesting interview, and I'm glad. And I've known this guy, I don't know. We played football together in college. So how long is that ago? We're relics now. We're antiques. You young guys out
right.
there. You look like you're 35 going on 30. And the rest of us are like beat up antiques out here. But I think and he talks about how he's on. Hey, we'll talk more about it tonight. But I've laid it out, and it's like a street cop telling you what it's really like. That all this stuff in the media is bullshit, and that the media has created this situation. By the way,
absolutely,
the media has fed this. It was never like this. Right, back in the day, it was like kind of like cat and mouse. If the people got caught, they would say, "All right, you got me," right? But now it's like, "Oh, I'm caught, but I have to do something because you're going to kill me." And cops don't go out on the street looking to kill people. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. But the media paints that picture now, so it makes an interesting point that people in these situations think that if I don't do something, I'm going to get killed because the media tells me that the white cop or even the black cop is going to shoot me, right? When it's not even the case. But that could be one of the reasons that's driving a lot of the violence. It's just the misinformation on being nice, disinformation, the spin, the bullshit to sell more clicks on your website, to get more clicks on your videos and things like that by the media. And I find that interesting as well. Yeah. But also, one thing we can discuss tonight too, in addition to everything else, is what's with like the public, a lot of the public rallying around these situations where there are rallies for Black Lives Matter and defund the police. Do you realize if you defunded the police, what the hell would happen in your communities?
It's happening already.
But how do you break through to these people? Yeah, you can't break through to these people. And I say the word again, communists. They're crazy. They're not, that attitude that they have and their everything, their political stance, their political platform, it doesn't belong in this country. I'm sorry, it doesn't belong here. That's not what this country was founded on. And we've already seen a massive breakdown of law and order at the federal level. But now we're going to push that for the state and local level.
I mean, isn't it happening, chaos? Mike? They're releasing people from jail when they're arrested for rioting. There's district attorneys announcing that they're not going to prosecute certain types of crimes.
These people,
Why would the cops even arrest these guys? There's only downside in it for them. They're risking losing their job, getting sued, and going to jail. Let's just stay home.
Exactly. That's the massive debate. Why would you go into law enforcement right now? And you're going to see people are leaving, obviously, in droves, and you're not going to see people lining up to take these jobs anymore, especially if they make it a crime to defend yourself. What is it now? You're supposed to get stabbed if you're a cop, regardless of what race you are. If some dude comes at you and he's a black guy, so to speak, right? And he stabs you, you can't shoot back because he's black or
take the stab.
or you
Suck
you
it
have
up.
to take it. Yeah, it's stupid. It's stupid. But this is what they're talking about, that if you defend yourself in a life and death situation as a police officer, that you can be charged. Now, there are instances where some guys, there's confusion and some guys get hurt and it's unjust, but it's not every single time. And even in Lancaster, we see what happened. It was completely justified a few days ago. And yet these folks showed up, these BLM agitators, and started, sowing the seeds for unrest and rioting. Did you see the video? But it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter if it's warranted. These folks will look for any excuse to do their thing. And I think they're well funded and well organized, and that plays into this as well. Does anybody out there not understand that these people are organized? This is organized chaos? Of course they do. I was reading stories where this week they said, it's coming out, some of the beautiful people in the media are saying, we think Department of Homeland Security thinks that Antifa is organized. Really?
Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
They also did a
on all
study. They
sides?
found out that rain is wet, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, what? That's breaking news. Catherine Heritage is like highlighting papers that the DHS thinks that Antifa is organized. What? No shit. This is what we're talking about? That's what you're doing with your time and your new position at CBS? What? What the hell is going on here? I mean, seriously. Grade school kids can figure this out. Of course they're organized. You think these dopes can handle this on their own? These guys are degenerates. They're skinny jean weirdos. These guys can't even make their own peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
I love the mugshot contact sheets that they're releasing where it looks like some kind of like casting call for the Joker in Batman or something.
Yeah, they all look whacked out on meth, and they all look like, they could use a bottle of Ensure every couple hours. Like they've been trapped in the woods.
Well, Mike, our commenters are pointing out the black umbrella. It obviously wasn't raining, but so it's not BLM or Antifa, but could be CIA. I mean, that's an interesting point from Dieter.
Who do you think, Paine? Who do you think is organizing these guys? Why do you think Barr has not labeled them a terrorist organization? Who do you think runs these guys? FBI is involved with these guys.
Yeah.
They pay top informants on both sides. They spread federal money around to these guys to get information. Or is it just information? Or do they say, hey, you know what, this guy, maybe we'll set this guy up, get these clowns over here, and we want to set another guy up, do one of these reverse stings where this guy was going to blow up a building or blow up a bridge, but you find out the FBI was behind the whole goddamn thing. And they set these poor bastards up, and then they indict them as terrorists. It's like, wait a minute. You guys set up the whole sting. They wouldn't have been would-be terrorists if you guys didn't recruit them
Right.
to begin with. So remember Trump, I think it's going on 5 months ago, said, we're going to designate Antifa as a terror organization.
Why didn't they do something about that?
Well, I think that's something he wanted to do, but Barr's probably like, we can't do that. We have guys we have money in play. We have guys. That would be the equivalent of designating the DOJ when it comes out as a terror organization.
That's a good idea too.
It always comes
that.
out. Well, I think most of the country is at this point, right? And that's
let me pause you a second, Mike, because we're just about a minute away from the need to transition over to the sponsor exclusive show. It's going to be starting in just about 5 minutes. People can catch us on patreon.com/TruePundit, subscribestar.com/TruePundit, and Patreon and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Mike, I know I told you that the strikes from the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences have basically taken out the Jason Goodman YouTube channel. So I've just recently made a major change to crowdsourcethetruth.com. And what's happening now is people can catch all the YouTube live streams on crowdsourcethetruth.com. That way they don't have to worry, if the channel gets struck, they're still going to be here. And people can also take a look at the Counter Lawfare Fund. It's a new sponsorship opportunity for people who want to help Crowdsource the Truth fight some of this lawfare nonsense that's going on. I also want to remind people to check out the Thomas Paine podcast They can get it on iTunes and Google and all over the place, and Mike's on there every day. If you sponsor Mike and the crew at True Pundit, you're going to get early access to a commercial-free video version of Paine in the Morning, and it's a great way to keep up with all the breaking news that's coming out all day on TruePundit.com. Mike, the other thing I want to talk about when we go over to the sponsor-exclusive segment is that they've just announced that some of the pleadings are coming out in these criminal trials against the cops that were involved in the death of George Floyd, and it seems he might have been a police informant. The prosecutors are being kind of stingy with that information, saying it's irrelevant, but it seems like it might be very relevant.
Wow.
We'll get into that in just under 5 minutes when people join us on Patreon and Subscribestar. I'll see you over there.
Sounds good. See you, man.
See everybody in just a couple minutes.